Hello everyone and welcome to another Star Wars figure review. Today we're going to take a look at a figure from Hasbro's 3 3/4 inch line of the Black series, and this time around we're going to take a look at this guy. This is of course none other than Luke Skywalker, and this particular figure is based on his appearance on Hoth during The Empire Strikes Back. Now you may be thinking, well hang on a minute, this figure looks very familiar, I'm sure I've seen it before. Well, you kind of have. This is an update to a previously released figure from the vintage collection, and for the purposes of this review we're going to do a bit of a comparison later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Before we get onto the figure itself, as always I want to give you a look at the packaging that he comes in. And one thing that I really want to point out in this review is that Hasbro have finally gotten rid of those god-awful, boring, bland and very minimal orange and black cards from the Black series line, and in their place stand these very cool looking TIE fighter pilot designs, which look really cool. One thing that really stands out about this card is that it reminds me a little bit of the Legacy Collection and Clone Wars cards from 2008, which obviously featured Clone Troopers and Stormtroopers as the card back design. And they're also a nice tie-in to the current Star Wars Rebels action figure line, which again features a Stormtrooper as part of the card back design. These new cards are really nice. Not only does the TIE Fighter pilot helmet design really set it off, but you know, the shape and design and colour used on the card really make it stand out on shelf, and you know, they grab your attention, which is what this packaging needs to do in order to get you to buy these figures. As you can see on the card, we do have the Black Series logo featured quite prominently at the top. We also have that very cool looking TIE Fighter pilot design on the back. At the bottom of the bubble we have an image of the character as well as the character's name. And on the back of the card we have a character description and an image from the film. Now this particular Luke Skywalker figure is indeed based on the Wampa attack sequence from The Empire Strikes Back. For those of you that remember that scene, it is of course when Luke is on patrol on Hoth on his Tauntaun, he's blindsided by a Wampa and is then dragged off into the snow cave and stuck upside down, and is forced to use the Force to get himself out of a very sticky predicament. So that's a very cool element about this figure, and obviously the image that is shown on the card back there reflects that. So very cool packaging design for this one, and once again we have the dreaded Disney logo at the bottom. So yeah, that's going to be a running thing throughout all future Star Wars figures, I would have thought. But there we go, that is the packaging that Luke comes in. So now let's take a look at the figure itself, and what we're going to do for this review is we're going to talk about this guy first, and then we'll do the comparison to the previously released figure. So as always we're going to zoom in on this guy, take a look at him in 1080p HD, and let's talk about this awesome looking figure. So first and foremost, let's run through articulation, and then we'll proceed to talk about the accessories and details of the figure. So firstly, Luke does indeed have a ball jointed head. He has hinged shoulders and elbows, he has swivel wrists, has a ball jointed torso. He has hinges at the hips, which of course help him to ride the Tauntaun. He also has hinges at the knees and hinges at the ankles as well. So very cool articulation on this guy. You can pretty much get him in all the poses that you'd want to. Very cool indeed. In terms of accessories, as you can see, the first two that Luke comes with are of course a blaster pistol, which can indeed be slotted into the holster on the belt. He also comes with an ignited blue lightsaber. He also comes with an unlit hilt, which can be attached to the belt. Sculpted detail on this guy is fantastic. The head sculpt is really good on this guy. Hasbro have always seemed to not so much struggle, but you know, they've had a hard time getting Luke Skywalker head sculpt correct in the 3 3/4 inch scale. But this one seems to nail it really well. Obviously you've got the added details of the scars just under the eye, on the cheek and across the mouth. But the facial sculpt itself, you know, the likeness is really accurate to Mark Hamill, who is of course the actor who plays Luke. And I'm really impressed with that head sculpt. Very good. As you can see on the headgear that Luke's wearing, he has some sculpted goggles. He also has the scarf that dangles down at the side. One thing to point out about that scarf is the fact that I would have really liked to have seen it swivel. Obviously when Luke is pinned upside down in the Wampa cave, the scarf does dangle down at the side of his head, and that would have been a really nice feature for Hasbro to include on this figure, just to make it the definitive Hoth Luke. It is the best one that's been made so far, but that feature would have just, really put the icing on the cake in my opinion. As you can see, the jacket and clothing that Luke is wearing is really well sculpted as well. You've got the rank code sculpted on the breast of the jacket. You've got the buckles and pouches on the belt, all the padding in the overall outfit, all the creases and folds, the detail in the boots. Just a very cool figure all around. The detail on this guy is top notch. As you can see, he does indeed feature the communications device or comlink on the side of his headgear. Once again, he just looks like a very, very cool figure. The only flaw that I've really found with this guy, and I'm not sure if this is just with my sample or whether this is a running theme throughout all of these figures, but on the back of my Luke Skywalker figure's leg, you'll see the serial number there, which is, very apparent. Isn't hidden at all and really does stand out like a sore thumb. Obviously being on the back of the figure, it doesn't detract from it too much, but it would have been nice if it wasn't there. But all in all, this is a great figure. As I said, it's easily the definitive Hoth Luke Skywalker figure that we've seen so far, and it is indeed a vast upgrade over the previously released figure from the Vintage Collection. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, this particular figure does indeed borrow parts from a previous Luke figure from the Vintage line, and that particular figure is this one. I believe this was the 95th figure released in the Vintage Collection, and he is part of Wave 12, still readily available on eBay and all that sort of stuff. He's a pretty easy figure to find, and at the time when he was released, he was really, really cool. But for me, there was just always something off about it, and I think it's the giant turban that he's wearing. The headgear on this guy just looks a little bit silly. The head sculpt leaves a little bit to be desired, and even though the figure is good, in my opinion it could have been better. So that's definitely what we get with this new Black Series release. As you can see, the colours on the outfit are much more vibrant, the head sculpt is far superior, just the figure itself just looks much better, and I'm really, really happy with this guy. In my opinion, this is a figure that I would recommend picking up regardless of if you have the original version. This is just the best Hoth Luke that Hasbro have made so far, and I'm really, really looking forward to the 6-inch version that will come with the 6-inch version of the Wampa. That should be a really cool figure, and I'll be sure to review it as soon as it hits. So in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed having a look at the Wampa Attack Luke Skywalker figure from the Black Series line. Once again, this is from the sort of relaunched Black Series line, so you'll be able to find this on the new style card, and he's currently available in the same wave as popular figures such as Darth Malgus, Starkiller, and a couple of repacks such as Yoda, and a brand new astromech as well, R5G19 I believe he's called. So some great figures in the wave, and this is definitely one that you should pick up. So as always guys, I want to give a big thanks to you all for watching this review. I will be back with some 6-inch Black Series figures in my next couple of videos. So until then, stay tuned, keep collecting, and as always, may the Force be with you.